Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome for the final time to the Inspire Theatre, home, we hope, of inspirational content through the course of WTM London 2016. Since we have Q&A aplenty in this coming session on digital influencers, let me remind you that you can ask questions via this section, this events section in the WTM London 2016 app, also at slido.com. Slido is our interactive platform in use to answer and ask questions. Please feel free to do that, overcome your shyness. We know democracy is a dangerous thing, ladies and gentlemen, but we'd very much like you to get involved in this session. So to moderate our session on digital influencers, would you please welcome from BritMum's Jennifer HOWZE.
Thank you. All right, welcome to what is probably the most important session of the entire show, talking about digital influence, how it's achieved, and what's going on right now. My name's Jennifer HOWZE. I'm co-founder of BritMums, the UK's largest parent blogging network. I also blog about travel on my blog Genography and am a former Times journalist. We have with us today on our illustrious panel Sarah Lee. I'm going to name them, then they're going to tell you about themselves very quickly. Keith Jenkins, Michael Ball, and the illustrious Steve Keenan. So Sarah, if you want to...
Okay. Yes, I'm Sarah Lee, and I'm founder and editor of Live Share Travel, a luxury travel blog, and also of a UK travel blogging collective called Captivate. And I do like wine, so I was very pleased to see that Michael brought some with him as well for the session.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Michael. I love wine too. And my name is Keith Jenkins, and I'm the founder and publisher of the Velvet Escape luxury travel blog. That's velvetescape.com. And I'm also the CEO of iAmbassador, which is a global network of influencers. And fun fact about me, I'm a #AvGeek. Yeah.
Thanks. So the first thing I've got to actually say is thanks to Slovenia for giving us some wine for this session. So don't go over there for some lovely drinks. I'm Michael Ball, and I'm one of the co-founders of Traverse. We run large blogging conferences and events, including the world's only bloggers festival. Influencers events, as well as marketing and stuff through Traverse Connect. I was also one of the co-founders of Travel Massive and run the London community of travel there. And that's about it. Yeah, a little bit geeky as well as a fun fact.
And hello, my name's Steve Keenan. A million years ago, I was a journalist on a newspaper, The Times, the Sunday Times. In 2006, moved into digital. I knew all these guys from about 5 or 6 years ago, and they're all starting on their fledgling blogging careers, and they've all matured into massive media celebrities now. I still work a bit in print, but mainly in digital. And if I do one thing, it's trying to help destinations, DMOs, to tell their story as they are, rather than trying to be something they're not, just to tell their story of what they are, what they do, be it in print, digital, or video, or any other platform. That's me.
Great. So we're going to start off with asking a question of the entire panel, and they're all going to answer. After that, they're going to chime in as and when, but most of all, we really want your questions. So from the very beginning, use the Slido session and ask your questions, because that's what we really want to answer here. So starting off, you guys, thinking about digital influence now, what are the enduring ideas or practices that really get results? This might be something specific as ways to use a particular social media or just a general approach. Tell us what works for y'all.
Well, when we're putting together campaigns, like blogging campaigns and influencing campaigns and so on, very much I'd say it's about the difference between paid and free. You know, that we're seeing people that we're working with achieving fantastic results, and they're really getting those results because you're working with professional teams, you know, who can bring considerable quality and numbers as well. So yeah, I think it's really just a mistake to consider nowadays that digital is free and it's all of just about community and it's easy and so on and so forth. You know, it takes a lot of effort, and that, you know, that brings is generated really. The good quality stuff is generated by professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, you get what you pay for is what I say all the time. And I completely agree with Sarah. Another thing that I see a lot of when we do campaigns with tourism boards and also with brands is that there is very little sharing going on. You have these influencers creating this amazing content for you and putting it up on their social media channels, on their blogs, etc. And then from the other side, from the client side, from the DMO, nothing happens. And I'm like thinking that's such a waste, you know. This is some great content that you should be curating and sharing with your audience and amplifying the content that the bloggers are creating. So for me, sharing is absolutely number one, like a really good thing to have in all campaigns, and it should be agreed upon in advance as well, and communicated across to all the different partners of the DMOs who are involved in the campaign as well, that look, we have these bloggers coming over, they'll be creating all this content, please feel free to interact with the bloggers and to share and amplify that content.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, totally agree with the sharing side. While I also do agree to a certain extent about getting what you pay for and using professionals, I always do take a little bit of issue with the word free being thrown around, because having worked for brands, I know how much it can cost to send someone away before you even start paying for them. So I don't think to say something's free is quite right. On the paid side, we do campaigns that traverse and always have done with both paid and unpaid. I always say that from a brand or DMO point of view, there has to be value in it for the influencer who's going. So that can be a lot of things. It doesn't always have to be a day rate or a financial incentive. If you're a new blogger, getting the experience of going on a first press trip, I think is invaluable, and it's absolutely fantastic to do. If you're someone with a family, throwing on 3 or 4 days where the family can fly out and join you for a bit of a holiday is fantastic, because that's your family holiday sorted. So, but I said, in terms of, from the blogger point of view, I think going back to what the original question was, I say probably the most important thing is staying right at the top of the curve or ahead of the curve, or whatever that's crested, I don't know. You know, look at what's coming up now, and you know, you've got some people at the moment I can see in this audience who are doing incredibly well with Snapchat. Now, for me, Snapchat isn't something I'm very good on. It's not something I'm big on, and I don't really do a lot of work on it. But these were people who adopted it very early. They saw that what was up and coming and became known for doing that. Live video is very important for that as well. And of course, doing what you do best. So don't ditch your blog just because you've started a YouTube channel that's picking up. And from the brand point of view, exactly the same as that. Work to the strengths of the people that you're looking to work with. If you've got a blogger who's also got a good YouTube channel, try and get a little bit of both from them, or try and organise a campaign that uses some of their other skills, maybe outside of what you originally planned your campaign to be. So I guess be adaptive, is what I'd say.
Thank you.
Do you want to go to one of these questions?
No. I was
Okay.
curious to see the first 4 questions are still. We're in this very narrow area at the moment in digital and blogging of value, of output, influence. It's the same conversation that's gone on for the last 2 or 3 years now. Blogging is a big thing, and destinations are trialing it out. Can we afford it? What are they bringing to us? Who are these people? What do they do? You know, touch them, prod them, see how they react. They know what they're doing. A lot of destinations don't. So I think what's really interesting is how this is a continuous rolling curve. This is still Wild West, and will continue to be for a considerable number of years, of how destinations work out whether they need to use outside bloggers to make a big international impact, because they've never had that before, or whether they try them, work out what works for them, and then work it themselves from the ground up. At the end of the day, it probably will be a mix of depending what the destination needs. But it's interesting to hear Philadelphia say earlier today that they had tried big value bloggers, but they've now moved away from that because very few people were exactly what they wanted, which in their case is VFR, traffic, parks, festivals, a whole range, a raft of different things that they need to explore and promote. So this conversation about ROI return is interesting, and I don't disagree with any of it, but I think it's just another stage along the process of a digital transformation of how we all work, which is going to carry on for years to come.
Well, there's so many great questions already. One that catches my eye is, so as a brand, how do you differentiate between quality with bloggers, or is it just all down to who's got the most influence? Is it just like this person's got X number of followers and that one has less, and so we go with the one who has the most numbers?
Yeah,
when y'all work on campaigns, you know, what do y'all do?
Would you measure influence by the reach of that blogger or person? You know, how do you measure influence? I would tend to look at the content, the quality of the content that the blogger or the influencer is creating. And if there's a specific voice, a specific interest this blogger has that appeals to you, appeals to your destination, if that's a good match, then with the messages that you're trying to get out there, then by all means work with this blogger. I don't think you should be going for, someone who's got, 10 million in reach or followers or whatever. I mean, numbers are great, but at the end of the day, it's a combination of why are you creating this content, this campaign. It's to create content, and it's to get the content out there, and it's to drive engagement. You may have someone who is, who has like millions of followers, but may not have the same kind of engagement as someone with a smaller following, and smaller following with a lot of engagement, and who creates really, really good content. So I think that balance has to be struck there. It's not all about the numbers.
I think as well it's about the relevance as well. How relevant is that blog and the content that they're producing to your target audience as a brand? Are they reaching the right demographic, do you think? Does it speak to them, in the right voice and so on? And then also, look at the blog, read the articles, look at the photos, any video. You can assess quality for yourself in that regard. Does it look good? Does it make you feel good? And does it inspire you? Because if it inspires you, then it's bound to be inspiring other people too.
Yeah.
So we asked some questions on Twitter this week, and one of them was, with algorithms and paid promotion opportunities these days, with platforms like Facebook Live, Facebook in general, is organic influence still realistic? Of the people who responded on Twitter, 32% said yes, 21% said no, and 47% said sometimes. What does our panel think? Organic influence, can it still happen, or do you just have to pay for it?
Again, Philadelphia, anybody who saw the session this morning or early afternoon, very honest and very entertaining, and they were saying only a third to a half of their posts now reach their audience, although most of their audience is people in Philadelphia who've liked their Facebook page. So they understand that they have to use paid now to get to those figures, to the 12 million rather than the 6 million people that they had before. And I think most people now would agree. Well, the answer on Twitter was sometimes was the highest response, saying sometimes it works. If you want to get something out to a lot of people, you get it to your natural base who is seeing it, and then you spend money incredibly wisely targeting the small minority of people who are directly addressed by that post. And I think that's quite clever. Facebook gets a lot of attention, also gets a lot of money, £7 billion in the first quarter this year. They're doing something right. But they are allowing you to get to people who you really want to get to rather than putting an advert in a paper or a generalised post. So I'd say sometimes it's probably the right answer for that.
Michael?
Yeah, I would add, I think sometimes is definitely the right answer. My opinion pretty much on Facebook is you're not going to build a big channel without paid now at all. Some of your posts, once you've built a sizable channel, can still work. But unless you're producing content like BuzzFeed, which has got a very good chance of going viral, or people are looking at you for those images of cats that they can share and things like that, then I don't really think you've got a good chance of getting a lot without paid reach. What Facebook have done is basically made it so a little bit of money can earn a lot of extra reach, which is a great move by them, because it's meaning that loads of people are chucking in $5, $10 to promote small posts, and it has a huge effect. In terms of whether organic content is kind of dead, I'm guessing that was kind of geared more towards blogs and bloggers and what they're producing. And I think not at all in those cases, because one of the things for me that makes a blog or a channel really good and really valuable to work with is when the people following it are following the person who creates it. People don't follow blogs because they want a magazine. They don't want to see your top 10 places to go on a beach holiday next year. They want to see what Keith got up to because they like what Keith does, and they want to see what football games he went to when he was in South Africa, or they might want to see which hotels Sarah and Terry stay in when they go away, because those are ones that they trust. So I think on those places, it's definitely not dead at all. I think if you're doing a good campaign, you mix in both of them pretty seamlessly, and it works well.
So shall we go again to questions? would you rather use 5 influencers with small followings or 1 influencer with a big following?
So can I just Frigate, before we say, are we just imagining that those 5 add up to exactly the 1, right? Because big and small can mean anything. So
well, let's assume for this question that it's the same ultimate number, I guess.
It really does depend on the influencers and your target. What are you trying to achieve? You know, it might be that the one influencer, if they can have a massive following. So, for example, you know, I see a lot of travel brands are now working with fashion vloggers and lifestyle vloggers and bloggers and so on. And they have, you know, especially the YouTubers, they have some massive numbers, you know, 2 million subscribers and more. But the question for me is always, yes, okay, because they've got 2 million subscribers, you've got a good chance of a fair chunk of people being your demographic and your target market. But you're not going to get all of those 2 million. They're not going to be your people because a lot of the YouTubers appeal to a much younger demographic than would be buying into travel. So it really does depend on what your targets are, what you're trying to achieve, and who the influencers are as well. There's no straightforward answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with that as well. And actually, I would say, you know, it depends as well. But I'm like leaning towards 5 influencers because I think, you know, if you have 5 influencers, that means you have 5 different personalities, 5 different styles. You can even throw in 5 different niches, which gives you, as a destination, extra coverage, you know, and you can target, you can have a luxury budget food adventure blogger, you know, in one team. And so you get a lot more covered than if you had just one influencer who was only interested in fashion and would just go up and down the shopping streets, or, you know, and yeah, you'll reach maybe 10 million people, you know, about shopping at your destination. But what about the food? What about the history, the art, the architecture, and all these other things which you would miss because you were only working with one influencer?
Sorry, just quickly picking up on that. Another thing, someone that I met here in the show said to me they'd been working with a fashion blogger who went out to one of their destination they work with, and they said, you know, the only trouble was they'd spent ages doing a little vlog first, or with a Snapchat or something, saying that they'd messed up their eyeliner, their eye makeup, as they were getting ready to go out to dinner that evening. They didn't do any mentions of the destination or where they were having dinner or anything like that. Their focus can be quite different. So, you know, you have to sort of put that into the balance too.
Yeah. I'm just reminded of, on the Isle of Wight, bit of farm diversification going on, milk prices going down the tubes. So there's a farm out there that's opened up the history of cows. And they've called it a museum, Get it? Anyway, very good. Now, if you're a museum on the Isle of Wight, you don't really need a big influencer. What you do need is somebody who's got a country file style following. You know what? Somebody who knows the Isle of Wight. You want 2 family bloggers because that's your target market. And you might want to know somebody who does food or something on the Isle of Wight. So those are the people who are going to preach to the converted, and those converted want to know about the museum in a way that one person with a big following, 95% of those people are going to not be the target market at all. Horses for courses, that's a particular example. But I think, as all these guys know, you've got to match the project with the right people to get the maximum impact. So sometimes is the answer.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And I think another element there is longevity.
Yeah.
That hitting a message over and over with an audience is more likely to motivate them ultimately to book, buy, etc. So let's talk about social media platforms for a minute, and then we're going to go back to the questions from the room. What is the most compelling social media platform that you, as bloggers, influencers, running networks, now, in your opinion, what is the best one right now for building influence? Facebook Live and ads, live video, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Instagram. Again, we did a Twitter poll earlier this week. 47% said video, 41% Facebook Live with ads, 12% said Snapchat, 0% said WhatsApp, and we could only put 4, so we don't know what they thought about Instagram. But what do you guys think?
Well, I answered that, and I answered video as well.
I did as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think video and then live video. Live video broadcasting is becoming very, very popular and very engaging, and I think it works really well for travel as well.
And I think live video is actually, why do people follow bloggers? Because they're interested in the way they can connect with the bloggers' preferred style of travel, whether it's luxury and they connect with the blogger's interests. And so seeing the blogger live on a screen actually adds so much value to that. So you're not just reading anymore, reading the blogs anymore and looking at the photos, you're actually seeing the blogger in action. And I think that adds a lot of value, yeah, for sure.
Michael?
Yeah, well, I'd say that I don't really think there's a right answer there. I think you've got to play to your strengths. If you're fantastic at taking photos with your mobile because you can spot an amazing scenery, then Instagram is going to be your answer.
Yeah.
If you're fantastic at talking to camera like a director, then go live social, so like a presenter. Go with the live Facebook Live, and if what you want to do is make great videos, go to YouTube. I would say you just have to play to your own strengths. You can focus on one and be very successful on any of those, and we've seen that because we've got people from all of the platforms mentioned making hundreds of thousands of pounds when they get really, really big. Because they built up a good network. I actually think the question was directly about what is the best to build an audience. And I do think the best individual one to build an audience is Instagram, because it's the easiest to get followers, to get big numbers pretty quickly. To build kind of a more career style thing, I would probably say YouTube. Video.
Yeah, increasingly hear about Instagram being the preferred platform of choice. From people with a visual product. But then I hear Facebook again yesterday saying the micro amount of time we now spend on any given post, or, they're doing live play in the Facebook feed of videos now because it's the latest way to grab your attention for more than 7 or 8 seconds. Our attention span has got so reduced. I don't know where that ends. What do we do then? Just twirl it like a fruit machine or something?
Yeah.
Stops on 3 cherries, or watch that. I don't know where that ends up. But video is the most compelling. And Visit Cornwall, are big on video, have tried Facebook Live, and getting huge reaction to putting a camera on the harbour side. People who love Cornwall, visited Cornwall, come from Cornwall, want to see this live stuff, and I find that quite compelling as well. So top for me right now is Facebook Live, Instagram. Strong too.
All right, so what about, I would say this name, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but what is the most common mistake DMOs make when working with influencers? Y'all must hear some stories.
Yeah.
Michael, you want to start us off?
Not doing the research and not planning the campaign properly. I think if you do that, you can get a lot out of pretty much anybody. There are some influencers out there who are going to be very blunt, they take the piss, and they're not great. They won't be around forever because they can't get away with that. And I think the actual mistakes they make, we're talking about the most common mistakes, come purely from not doing the research. Throwing the wrong blogger into the wrong campaign, not coming up with the right campaign for a video, anything like that. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And stuff like putting a budget travel blogger in a 5-star hotel, and including that in the itinerary. I mean, it's one of the dumbest things you can do. I think it's really important that you read the blogs and know who these bloggers are, what their style is, what their voice is about, and also understand the demographics. So do a little bit of research, ask the bloggers for their media packs, so you get an idea of their demographics, who their audiences are, and which markets they represent. Oh gosh, I could go on forever on this one. But yeah, Sarah.
I'll take over the baton. Allowing enough time on a trip for bloggers to do their live social media updates. It's very, very different to organising a press trip where journalists are coming out there and they're taking their notes and their pictures and they're going off, and a few weeks or months later you'll see an editorial appear. The bloggers are doing social media and live updates there and then. So don't cram, all too often DMOs cram the itineraries. Yeah, it's just too much.
Couldn't agree more.
And then the other thing about sharing that Keith mentioned earlier.
That's right.
It's missed opportunity, isn't it, if
Yeah.
you're not sharing the content that's being produced.
Yeah, and also repurposing the content.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to get videos, you're going to get photos, you're going to get the blog posts. You could think of so many things that you can do with this content that's already out there and repurpose it. Put it into an ebook. Create a video channel specifically for this campaign. All the videos coming out, and just get everything together. Feature it on your website. There is just so many different things you can do with it, and a lot of DMOs still don't do that, which is very odd. Yeah.
Just very briefly, alluding to what I was saying earlier, I think a long-term goal or objective is creating content from where you are, from the people who are living there. And that means that you have to work out as a DMO who you are, what your story is, and how you want to be perceived by the world. What is the story they want to know you for? They've just sacked an agency in Dorset, where I live, because they wanted to tell the new DMO down there that they should work on 2 themes for Dorset. One was rural and one was beach. It's not exactly unique to Dorset. So if you don't know what your story is and how you want it to be told to the world, how on earth do you expect the influencers to have free hand to come up with anything that aligns to your message? So you have to work out who you are, what you want, and choose the influencers who can back that storyline up and stick with it long term.
Oh, and one more thing as well, agreeing the deliverables in advance. I think that's a really, really important thing that both the influencers and the DMOs or the clients should look at right before the trip starts or the campaign starts, so that everyone's on the same page and you get to manage expectations a lot easier that way as well.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. So I'm going to bundle 2 of these questions together because they're both about paying influencers. And I think we're using the term bloggers, but they can be bloggers, Instagrammers, they may be YouTubers, they may be on all these platforms. But what extras can I expect to get if I'm paying for a blogger besides paying for their trip? And can we still trust what they read? Do you think influencers deliberately misinform their audiences, or maybe even just don't tell a warts and all story because they're just flattered to be asked and loving the freebies? So you can answer one or both of those. Please keep your answers brief.
Okay. We have contracts. With every client we work with, we have a contract. And part of that contract says exactly what deliverables there will be, and there are many. That we have a minimum number of editorials that we will deliver, rather than most bloggers who go on a trip may well just do one post from it or something like that. We'll have a minimum number of posts, any video, any other extras like that. We work with professional videographers and that kind of thing as well. So it's not just a blogger going and doing a good, their best job they can. And the other thing that's within that contract as well is that we maintain editorial control of our channels. And that is crucial to everything that we do, because we want to be able to maintain that relationship with our readers, and that relationship with our readers is vital, and that trust that they have in us is vital for the clients that we work with as well. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The whole thing.
Yeah, I think when you're paying a blogger or paying an influencer, you can agree the deliverables. You sign a contract. Both parties know what to expect from each other, and you can agree timelines, etc. There was one campaign that we did with a European DMO 2 years ago, and it was a 4-month campaign, and there were 90 bloggers in total that participated in this campaign. Out of that 90 bloggers, 12 were paid, and just to take one metric as an example, when we were looking at the impressions or the opportunities to see at the end of this campaign, 90% of the impressions that were created came from these 12 bloggers. So a lot of the impressions. I mean that number just says it all, really. So you have to agree this, and I think paying bloggers, especially the ones who are delivering quality engagement, great content, these are the ones you should be expecting to pay?
Yeah, paid bloggers. Well, I don't directly go against what you were both saying there. Firstly, in my opinion, if there's goods or services changing hands, you get a contract. It doesn't matter whether they're paid or not, and they work to that and they deliver on what they've said they do. You shouldn't need to rely on paying a blogger just to make sure they get their post out on time, they do their tweets at the right timeline. If you are paying for them to be somewhere, you're exchanging something with them, then there is need there, or there is possibility to have a contract. Now, obviously, smaller campaigns, like a lot of the events that people do where they put on and host drinks receptions, that's very much, they hope some people blog about it, some people tweet about it, some people Snapchat. But I don't think it, it necessarily has to be. When I talk about what the extras you might get from people who are getting paid, I don't really think there are any very specific ones, because it's all a big sliding scale. When do you say that's when you pay them a tenner, £100, £1,000? So I think that as long as you organise what you do in advance properly, it's fine. We always stress with our contracts to the brands, I'm sure you guys do the same, that it's a minimum. So we really love working with bloggers who over-deliver, because it's absolutely fantastic when we report back saying, we said you were getting 10 posts, you got 15. Going back to what you mentioned, I'm guessing there's 78 bloggers who didn't contribute to the 90%, also not quite as big as bloggers, because you paid the big ones. So I think that those figures can always be, obviously it does say something about the paid bloggers, but it also shows that you're paying the bigger bloggers. So just the second part of the question, which I don't think any of us touched on, do you believe influencers can deliberately misinform their audiences?
Well, it was not only about the reach of the 12 bloggers, but it was also because obviously there was an agreement, and so the paid bloggers knew what they were there for. It's a job. And so they were really working their social channels, whereas the other bloggers who weren't paid were there and they were just going around and treating it like a holiday. And it's like, oh, maybe I shall put up this tweet today, you know? So instead of getting like 5 to 10 tweets a day or one Instagram photo a day, like most of the 12 bloggers were doing, the other bloggers were just putting up maybe one tweet and maybe one Instagram every couple of days, or, you know, maybe even nothing at all.
Is it not the case that you then, because you didn't actually give those people the same contract? See, I'm not saying you should have done, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have done, because you can have some
minimums.
Yeah, you set minimums. Yeah. But we will do a contract for a minimum, whether they're being paid or not. And if people don't adhere to that contract, then they're in breach of it. It doesn't really matter if you're actually giving them money. I do actually think that some influencers can deliberately misinform their audiences because they want to work with brands more than once because they pay a lot. I think those people get found out, and I don't think they do it for long. So that's that part of the question.
Well, can I just jump in? I want to hear from Steve, but I also think, though, there's room for fans in your influencer stable. So there are definitely bloggers in the family travel market, which is where we concentrate, that, you know, their particular destination or particular travel brand, they are fans. They love everything about it, but they're very honest about that in their posts, or, you know, they'll go someplace and be like, I love this place, I love this, and they don't make any bones about the fact that they're not trying to be journalists. They're there because they're cheerleaders, they love it, and you know, that they're not misinforming their audiences, but their audience is self-selecting because the only people reading those posts are also going to be fans, which can be a good thing.
Absolutely. You know, if you get invited to a good party as a journalist on a paper or as a blogger or any other area, you're going to remember that party. And a good party normally surprises you. So there's things there, wow, you meet really good people, have a really good time. You've got memories from that trip. So as Jen and Keith said, that if you get a lot out of a trip, you are going to write about it, you're going to enthuse about it, you're going to tell your mates about it, you're going to produce more content you would be contracted to do, because it's good. A lot of the stuff you do is do the deal, get out, because it was a job. You don't particularly want to go to some parts of Eastern Europe. They're paying you to go, you're going to write about it, the job done. Or it may just knock you sideways, you want to go back there forever. Take out what we're talking about there on the second question. Can you trust what you read? This is interesting. We had the Advertising Standards Agency yesterday talking about this. They're talking that Google started to crack down on bloggers, so they say. I don't think they can, so that's irrelevant. But the ASA is still trying to determine what is sponsored, paid for, you know, what are you contracted for. There's a disclaimer at the bottom. What does it really mean? Are you flogging something with a Twitter storm? Twitter chats to me are quite interesting because they tend to be bloggers talking to bloggers all the time, promoting a product or a destination that's paid for. I find that deeply weird because it's not real. You're promoting links or pieces that you're already doing with somebody else. This is an interesting area, and it could well be that we'll see more attention in this field in the future. But at the end of the day, the good ones are never going to do that because they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. It'll be the amateurs and the triers and the wannabes who will probably fall foul of that, I'd say.
So, with limited resources, I mean, it always feels like we keep hearing about something else we should be doing, either as bloggers or as brands, or you need to get on this and create impact in different ways. How specifically do you, or the folks you work with, focus time and efforts to increase influence? And this could be an overall vision or even kind of nuts and bolts day-to-day strategies.
Nuts and bolts day-to-day, it's all about having assistance. Yeah. Nowadays, a lot of bloggers are starting to get their own like social media managers, virtual assistants and writers and all sorts of different things, because the reality is it's getting to be a big operation, you know, and so nobody can do it on their own, and so, you know, you just need to get as much help as you can. And so this, you know, this all comes with a cost. You know, we all pay out for it, we all invest in our businesses, and you know, that's where some of what we talked about before goes into that investment.
All right.
Yeah, no, I just, like I said before, you know, find something you're good at and maybe put a little bit more focus on one side than the other. Don't worry too much if you feel like you're neglecting one platform. You don't have to be on everything you're doing. And again, like I said a couple of times today, play to your own strengths. You know, bloggers follow you as a person. Sorry, followers follow you as a person, follow your opinions and personalities. So just get that across in the way that you feel most comfortable doing it. And don't panic if you see someone else doing it bigger, because they might be buying followers from another country, or they might be putting all their money into paid. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Focus on your own stuff, and it will come good in the end if you're creating good content.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I know. I see quite a few like really the really big bloggers getting social media managers or assistants to help them out, and I think that's a great development as well, because you know you can't be everywhere all the time, and you're just overstretching yourself. So it's great to get help. And what I think that a really important thing is what you mentioned is that the blogger, even it's good to get this help, but you should not lose sight of your voice being diluted or actually just being completely absent in your social streams. So you know, I see quite a few models I'm developing right now where you know you have like an assistant who just basically grows your pin boards, or you know, pins your posts on Pinterest, or you know, puts up your latest post on Facebook, and manages your Twitter account. But the blogger himself or herself is actually managing the interaction with the audience, and I think that's really important. That has to be continued.
Oh, that's really interesting, Keith. Okay, Steve, I'm going to go to this question here.
Yeah.
As former, you can say, and then I'll respond. As former journalists, do you feel good storytelling is being lost with the rise of digital, or is it still there in its core?
Well, frankly, Jen, I am appalled of being called a former journalist. I still like to think I can string a few words together. It's just that, you know, there's not much in newspapers anymore. Of course it is. Storytelling, of course it is. That's the whole point, isn't it, of anything you read or catches your attention or tells a story in video or in 5 seconds in a paragraph is something. It goes back to the Facebook algorithm. If you keep spinning loads of stuff out there, it's only the good stuff that will be alighted on. There's a penchant, I don't know if it's still the case, but going back to long story reading on some websites, because people are bored of, you know, 16 images with a paragraph in between. That's not storytelling. That's lots of pictures and 500 words. It's a visual storytelling, but it's not storytelling. That's a long read. That's a really good video. It's a single person. The best video I ever saw was from the Arctic Circle to back up a Nat Geo article that was written brilliantly. And it had 13 frames in this video of just what each person in the community was doing that day. You know, cooking, stripping berries, sleeping. And the last one was a whaler just looking out to sea, well, looking out to the ice, because it was frozen for the next 6 months. And he was with his dog, and he said, this is what I'm doing. I'm sitting here waiting for the ice to melt. Now I'm going to bed. And that was it. But it was Christ, the empathy and the sort of pathos of that sort of one shot was extraordinary. And it told the story superbly. And if everybody can keep sticking to that and aiming for that, I would be wonderfully pleased. as well as the 95% of stuff which is just tush.
Yeah. I do think, yes, storytelling is still key and is still at the core of digital influence. And it's interesting now, people can tell stories just through, you know, the images they curate on their Instagram feed. So it's an immediate visual story, you know, just when you look at all their images. I do think that we're still grappling with how digital influencers differ from journalists in that they report differently. The projects when we've worked with brands or DMOs or destinations that work best are when those entities don't expect a blogger to go out and find facts. Instead, we always say, get a cheat sheet, tell them all the hashtags, give them a bullet point of lists. We do that for our own bloggers on any kind of project where we say, here are the messages, and here's some facts you might find interesting to include in your post. You don't have to, but unlike a journalist who they will have an editor breathing down their neck, that the more kind of resources or collateral you can provide them, the more you may find that the storytelling they're doing matches with what you want to do.
Can I just add one codicil to that? Just think about what you said, Jen. It's not storytelling that's being lost, but what is being lost is sub-editors, a whole layer upon layer of people who take what you've done, which you think is brilliant, and you don't recognise it when it appears in the paper. Those people who polish and skim and trim and enhance and gloss.
Yeah.
You can't polish a turd, I was once told by a sub-editor, but you can polish up something that's halfway workable. So the storytelling is still valuable, but the skills that really bring it to a high level, they're being lost, without a doubt.
If I could chip in as well here, as a former journalist, yes. Still do a bit of journalism every now and again as well. But I actually think it's just that the nature of the storytelling has transformed. So it's you know, really being told in a shorter way and in a slightly different way, and a different way per platform as well. So, you know, we have narrative stories on our site as well as how-to guides and destination guides. We like to mix it up and keep it that way, you know. But then equally, if I'm posting a set of 4 pictures to Twitter, I'm even thinking within the pictures that I'm choosing and the little sort of, you know, space I've got in that less than 140 characters to add a caption. What's the story? What am I trying to project, you know, tell people about here? What emotions perhaps am I trying to get out of people, you know? So it's from there right the way through to Instagram. You know, it's a storytelling exercise, and also with video as well. There's a lot of really, like you said, Steve, as well, a lot of really good storytelling video, and we work with, you know, different teams that produce fantastic storytelling videos as well now too. So it's not that storytelling is dying or being lost. You know, it's just evolving.
Yeah.
We have time probably for 2 more questions. I'm going to combine 2 of the audience questions into kind of one. Y'all can answer which one you want, and then we have a final question for the panel. But there are more and more ways to fake it in the influencer world, buying followers, views, etc. How do we gauge how legit someone is? Combined with that, what is the most accurate way to evaluate the ROI from individual blogging platforms? And I would expand that a little, ROI in general. How do you evaluate it? Can you speak to either one of those?
This is you, Keith.
Which one are we starting with? The paid followers or the ROI?
Paid followers or ROI? The top 2.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, which question are we answering first?
You can answer either or both. So I think they're both around this idea of evaluating reach and engagement and ROI.
Yeah. Fake followers. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, there are websites out there, though I tend to kind of like use them more as a guide. Actually, I don't use them anymore, but I used to. I think, you know, one of them is, was it fakefollowers.com? Yeah, exactly.
It's that easy.
Yeah, it's that easy. Yeah, and it basically gives you, you know, like a graph, and you can actually see, you know, how the follower base has developed, and you can also, and it basically already just makes a scan of the followers, and it can tell you straight away, oh, these are all bots, you know, and they'll give you like a percentage of, okay, so this guy's got 100,000 followers, out of this 100,000, 40,000 are bots, and you know, and it goes on from there. So, I mean, these are sites that I don't know exactly how accurate they are, but at least it gives you an idea. What I also look at especially is the evolution of the build-up of the followers. So I always start to get a bit suspicious when I see like really big spikes, and like, ooh, what happened there? You know, were you just featured in the New York Times or something? You know, it's just, it could be something as simple as that, but you would like to know what happened there. So, you know, there are ways of looking at trying to gauge if these followers are fake or not.
I think as well it's also about the quality of the engagements that you see. So, you know, what are the nature of the comments that are left on updates and things like that? You know, do they look particularly spammy or real? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As Sarah said there, basically, if you do a little bit of research, you can usually figure out who's trying to bullshit you. You know, look at a YouTube video. If someone's getting 40,000 views per video for 5 videos in a row, they've still only got 200 subscribers, something's dodgy there.
Yeah.
If they've got 50,000 views and 3 comments, something's questionable. Instagram, exactly the same thing. If all the comments on Instagram are going to be saying, love this, nice shot, smiley face, love what you do, then those are coming from fake accounts, right? Or they're coming from people who are also buying followers because they automatically comment to get you. So, yeah, the same thing I go back to every time. Unless you're doing an event or something for 500 bloggers, research the people that you're looking to work with, and you can usually find this quite a lot. The one that I actually find the most difficult to find is often the comments on the blogs. Now, something which is very prevalent in the mum blogging world, which I'm sure Jen knows about, is comment swapping. In my opinion, it's fraud. You go on a Facebook post and they go, this is a comment swap thread. I do have to say, a lot of people do it on YouTube, and I find it quite annoying that some YouTubers that I like and respect quite a lot are partaking in this comment share Friday exercises, because you're lying to people there, and that's what it is. And
Okay. I'm just going to jump. No, I'm stopping you. I'm just going to jump in, because I used to have this same idea, but I do think that there is something valuable, one, in influencers promoting other influencers.
They're not promoting, they're commenting, they're not
yeah,
sharing.
but they are. But the fact is, the way algorithms work these days, that this goes back to the idea of organic followings. And in a way, you need people coming and commenting. I mean, those people, they are actually coming. They are actually reading.
They're coming because someone says, if you comment on this one and then leave your next 5 links,
Well,
5 more
but
people comment. It's like an
commenting-
old pyramid scheme, but for...
It's not a pyramid scheme, it's
Or a
not.
chain letter. It
It's
is that
not.
kind of thing, isn't it?
It's not, but also, okay,
I'm not
but
familiar
so
with these
that
schemes
can...
at all.
No, but
I've been
the,
sucking into
Company travel, obviously, just funny.
yeah. But these things actually, what they can do is they can help blogs that are trying to increase their following, to get a foothold, to elevate themselves, that it advantages them in terms of algorithms, which, as we all know, they can change at a drop of a hat, and suddenly, I mean, we have bloggers who come to us and say, I used to get loads of natural comments on Facebook. Now, you know, Facebook has kind of quit serving mine. I don't really know, but obviously people aren't seeing it. So I do think that, I think the use of the word fraud, it's like, yes, of course, wouldn't it be great if everyone actually typed in the name of my blog and, you know, read through those first 5 posts and just commented because they were so moved. But I don't think, it's not as if those are being served up by bots, or people that are not even reading it.
I genuinely think it's the same thing. Because when having bloggers come to your blog, bloggers that you know and you know follow you, that's fine. They make up a percentage of your following. They'll also be influenced in the same way as other people can. That's absolutely fine. But partaking in an exercise where all you're doing is flicking to the bottom and leaving a comment and then leaving your link so the next 5 people comment on yours, I genuinely would say that I think you're cheating there, and you're cheating other people, and you're cheating the brands who go there to look at that. And, you know, I say, don't measure engagement by page views, measure it by comments. I can't say that to people now, because I don't know how many comments have been someone going onto the UK bloggers or Bloggers World sites and these ones on Facebook and participating in these exercises. I could go onto my Facebook thing right now and I could show you 25 posts of people doing
but also participation and comments beget comments. So
Moving on.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I thought you wanted to.
Interesting argument, and it is an absolutely genuine conversation, because a long time ago it moved away from how many followers people had, because that could be bought. Engagement became the sort of metric of the last 2 years. Some people are sharing it, liking it, but this is a conversation that clearly now has been overtaken as well. So it comes down to the first thing that people will react to, and always has been, is visiting friends and relatives. Independent reviews. We all know how to work TripAdvisor. We know if you read 10 reviews on TripAdvisor that which 8 are genuine and which 2 are planted, because it's common sense. You can work out over a period of the comments and the reviews what is genuine, what isn't. And I'd say it's probably the same if there's a number of comments on a blog post, if there's original comments and thought and go wow stuff in there, it's good. If it's just link bait, follow me, like you, it's pointless. But so how do you gauge how legit someone is? It's like, how do you gauge what a good actor is? You know, is Tilda Swinton far better than you know, somebody who's not so good as Tilda Swinton? Who's extraordinary. She's legit. She's genuine. She'll do brilliantly original roles all the time. Underneath her, there's varying grades of different quality or not, and that's what you've got to choose, because what appeals to you are the people and the blogs you're going to read in the future. The rest of it is common sense, I'd suggest.
Yeah. So we have time for one more question. Let's pull the camera back. What do you do, or what does everyone here in the room do in the next hour, the next week, the next year, and they want to increase their digital influence? What would be your to-dos? The kind of secret tips you only really give like your friends and don't share, since we're all friends
Use
here.
comment threads.
I don't normally give out to my friends, but I'm sitting on a stage with, you know.
Yeah, exactly. With you know, loads of your friends in the audience.
Consistency. Be consistent in everything that you do, and that, you know, when you're building your audience, your influence, whatever you want to call it, even your content, be consistent and just keep working at it. You know, the timings. So it's not only about the quality of the content that you post up there, but it's also the when you post it up there, the frequency of it. Just be consistent in that, and that's the only way. Obviously, with interaction, with engagement as well, that's the only way that's going to build your influence or readership. Yeah.
And I just totally agree with that. And something I was always told at the Times is another word for consistent is being reliable.
Yeah.
So be brilliant if you can be brilliant, but be reliable, and then you'll be streets ahead of most of the competition. But the one thing I would do is I learned yesterday of a site, I believe it's called Digital Nomads, where they have an awful lot of experienced ex-BBC type film editors. I love video. I'm not good enough to edit video, so I'm going to find a really good video editor who can polish my basic work and make it something I can't get to, because video is going to be that important. It is that important.
Yeah. For me, it's about quality. You know, actually, similarly to what you're saying there as well, Steve, is you know, buy in the skills that you need. You know, if you're not good at, if you can film the video content, but you're not that great at editing it, then go to a decent video editor so you've got a quality finished piece. And you know, also invest time in, you know, writing or in your photography, learning new skills and all of that sort of thing as well.
I think, you know, just keep doing what you're doing if it's good. Don't try and change to copy what someone else is doing because it's working for them. What I've mentioned a couple of times today, and I'll always mention about being an individual as a digital influencer, is people want to follow you. So create stuff that is true to you and what you do. Try and stay on top of new stuff that's coming out. Don't be scared to embrace new stuff, but yeah, stick with what you do best, and don't try and imitate others, and don't be too scared if you see other people getting too far ahead of you. Because if you keep producing stuff that's good for you, then then it will come good. And I actually do say, although I think buying in quality stuff is really important and it can work well as well, I always think that you don't actually have to be perfect in every aspect of doing a blog. You know, if you want good bloggers are photographers, web designers, videographers, editors, writers, of course. You don't have to be amazing at all of those things. Brilliant story can have some pretty mediocre photos, and I'm still going to love it. You don't always have the ability to buy stuff in, but yeah, just keep doing stuff that you know is good, because you know in your heart when you've written something good or when you've done a good video. And if you love it and you're enjoying it, then who gives a crap what other people think if it's not going to be 1 million followers anyway?
Great. Well, thanks to everyone for coming and for submitting these fantastic questions. I wish we could have gotten to them all. Thank you to the panel for lending their insight and expertise. And let's give everyone a big round of applause in the audience and here on stage.